Michelle says, no cable here, so I don't know. Michelle, you're better off. Okay, finally, let's get to this Friday's episode. It is the disappearance of Kassandra Ramirez. It's the title of the episode is Rise to Overcome. She disappeared September 19th/20th of 2018. So once again, we have a very new disappearance. We went back to 1945 and then 1962 with Phyllis. And then we've now done two 2018 disappearances in a row. You just never know where we're going to go in this program. The guest for this episode is Cassie's mother, Ingrid. I did that interview. When was that interview? A few days ago. And Cassie disappeared from the Bronx, New York. You're going to hear a story about I'm reading what Cherie says I'm right, and Carrie says, hey, now no one can stoop and dig for info like a nosy female. I agree. Cassie Ramirez went through a lot. And as we hear so many times on this program about young women getting involved in drugs, she was at one time. She had a son born in 2010. The son died after 12 days. She was living in the basement of where she worked at one time. A lot of things going on in her life. And then she managed to kind of crawl out of that, and that's why this episode is called Rise to Overcome, how we must overcome those obstacles in our life. And then on the night of September 19th, she was picked up with a guy, John O'Brien, who was a kind of a guy that she had seen on and off, dated on and off for a while, but at that point, they were not an item. In fact, at that time, he was with another woman that he had gotten pregnant, and a witness says, Cassie and this other woman, he saw them all together. This witness saw them all together in a car. And John's story is that, and through the night from like 11 p.m. September 19th into the following morning, even up to 7 a.m. the next morning, Cassie had texted people through the night, called people through the night. But then at 7 a.m., she made one last phone call, and that was the last use of her phone. Even though the phone continued to be on, people calling her, people texting her, she never responded to any of them. Sounds a lot like Cameron Remmer's disappearance. And what we at Unfound were able to do for this episode is that Ingrid, her mother, has her phone records, had Cassie's phone records, and she sent them to me. And between myself and my assistants, we were able to put names to all of the numbers around Cassie's disappearance. And we were able to give that back to Ingrid in the hopes that she can use those names in some way. And what's interesting, and you're going to hear about this in the interview, is that two of those numbers were used quite often before she disappeared, but both of them disappeared from her records immediately after her disappearance. And we were able to put names to both of those numbers. And we will be mentioning the names that go along with those numbers in the interview. However, what we don't know is if these people had those numbers at the time of Cassie's disappearance in September 2018. All we know is who has those numbers now. So we were able to, I think, do some good work so far in helping Ingrid out, because she had no way to figure out, but we have the knowledge, and we do pay for a couple databases that we use to look up phone numbers and attach them to names and addresses. And what John's story is that he dropped Cassie off at a train station. This even reminds me of Trevor Nichols' disappearance from Syracuse, New York. He claims that he dropped Cassie off at a train station so she could ride back to her house, and that's the last time that he saw her. The problem is that the police in investigating this disappearance never went to that train station in New York City to check the video to see if Cassie was on the video. So once again, this is Kassandra Ramirez, disappeared September 19th / September 20th, 2018. The guest for the episode is Ingrid Ramirez. She disappeared from the Bronx, New York. And it's an episode that I'm calling Rise to Overcome. You will find that she is on NamUs, but her disappearance is not on the Charlie Project for whatever reason. I don't know why. But I think I'm going to call it a night with that. And it's the longest live show ever, an hour and 45 minutes. So what did we do? Told you about how I have the next few weekends off. Talked about Dr. Grace Telesco, going to be meeting with her in person in April. Talked about another university speaking opportunity that could be coming up within the next 6 weeks. The Eric Alvarado poll. Talked about Crystal Morrison. We talked about Ashley Summers, Sherry Mahan, newsletter this weekend. We talked about Snopes and how they pointed out the erroneous information in the map that tries to correlate disappearances in caves. Talked about Christy Witcher, who was finally identified after 25 years. Talked about the Jody Huisentruit Up and Vanished episode with all its mistakes. Took a bunch of excellent questions before and some questions that all of you asked. A lot of great questions tonight. And then we covered what will be this Friday's episode, the disappearance of Cassie Ramirez. That's it. Man, a long show tonight, but man, it went so fast. I had so much fun. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the viewership. Thank you for the listenership. Thank you for all the kind words. Thank you to my assistants for all the help and a lot of you tuning in tonight. Cherie, thank you for doing the moderating. Good night, everyone. See ya.